mynews.studio.
A single sector in China now rivals the entire economy of Brazil. Could clean energy end up redefining how global power is measured?
Today is February 13th, 2026. Let's look at the numbers first. In 2025, China's clean tech industries, things like electric vehicles, solar, and wind, generated 15.4 trillion yuan. That's over 1.6 trillion pounds. Actually, it's about the same size as Brazil's entire GDP. And more than a third of China's economic growth last year came from these sectors.
Exactly. What's really striking is just how big this has become. Over 90% of all new investment last year went into clean energy. Electric vehicles led the way. More than half of all new cars sold in China are now electric. And if you look at just the EV sector on its own, it would actually rank as the world's 8th largest economy.
So, how did China get to this point? It wasn't just luck. Back in the early 2010s, China started rolling out policies, subsidies, and targets for clean tech. Then, by 2014, the Made in China 2025 initiative put EVs, solar, and wind at the heart of the country's industrial strategy.
Right, and that meant quotas for production, purchase subsidies, and significant state investment. Over time, as the sector scaled and costs dropped, the policy approach shifted. By 2020, carbon neutrality became the big objective. China introduced feed-in tariffs for renewables and required grid integration. Fossil fuel companies started facing penalties, while clean tech firms were given incentives.
So it's a feedback loop. Policy drives innovation. That attracts more investment, which leads to even greater scale and lower costs. But
it's not all positive. With so much new capacity, there's now overproduction in both EVs and solar. That's triggered price wars. Major brands like BYD and Tesla China have had to cut prices to keep sales up. As a result, profits have been squeezed.
And that's just one problem. Power market reforms have reduced subsidies, so the sector can't depend on government support forever. Plus, there's the international dimension. The US has ended solar tax credits and put tariffs in place. Europe is using anti-dumping duties and investing in its own battery production.
Exactly. And how are other countries responding? Some are working with China on supply chains. Others are using subsidies and protectionist policies to try to catch up. Everyone wants to benefit from the clean tech boom, but there's a risk the market could fragment.
If China's story is a model, could other countries follow it? Or is China's scale and central planning just too different to replicate elsewhere?
That's the big question. China's approach relies on massive state investment and close coordination. Other countries have different systems, so the outcome could be very different. But the main takeaway is clear: clean energy can be a major driver for economic growth.
There's also the sustainability angle. Can this level of growth keep going with price wars and overcapacity? Will industry reforms be enough to keep things profitable and innovative?
And as global supply chains change, what does it mean for climate goals? If more countries invest in clean tech, could that speed up the transition away from fossil fuels?
Or could protectionism and trade disputes slow things down instead? The next few years will be important to watch.
So, to sum up, China's clean energy sector has transformed its economy and is forcing countries around the world to rethink green technology and industrial policy.
But the challenges, like overcapacity, profitability, and competition, are likely to shape what happens next.
Thanks for joining us as we broke down China's clean tech transformation and what it could mean globally.
Thank you for listening. This episode was brought to you by mynews.studio. Try it now for free.